Yep.
Hi, John. How are you?
Hey, Bruno, I'm very well today.
Fine. So let me just begin and telling a little bit more information about how we met. So when I first arrived to Canada, I was searching to to be involved in the community, and I found the Canadian sharing online, and I clicked in order to volunteer to this organization. And yeah, and later on we did a meeting, and I started volunteering and working on some projects regarding India, if I remember. So I want to do this interview with you in order to introduce you and introduce the NGO to all Canadians and to the world, and especially to the people that are on my social media, so they can have a little bit of information about what Canadian sharing can do, and a little bit about your path as well, because it was nice meeting you and beneficial as well.
Sure.
So John, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and and about your home country?
Sure. Absolutely, Bruno. Thanks for reaching out to me, Bruno. I really appreciate it, this opportunity to speak to potentially other communities and certainly broadly to Canadians about my experience and what I do. Um, my On my father's side, he came to Canada from Ukraine. Actually, my great grandfather, and there was some strife in Ukraine at that time, and the family was offered some land and the opportunity to have a better life, and they took that and moved from Ukraine to Canada and settled around Winnipeg. And there's a lot of Ukrainians that are in that area because Ukraine is known for its food production, and of course, the lands around Winnipeg are quite easy to farm and quite abundant. On my mother's side, they came over in I think 1850 from Great Britain generally. Um, they seem to have settled in Ontario. From the records I've seen is that they had some farm ownings in I think just north of Toronto, just uh, I think after 1900, and ultimately they moved to Vancouver to set up a barrel factory. And again, this is all driven economically. They were hoping for a better life. They came to Canada hoping for a better life, more freedom, and to be
Yeah.
more prosperous.
I think it's the first objective we all are doing as a
Of
newcomers
course.
when we arrive. So do you miss your country, John? Like what type of food probably do you miss, or what type of festivals do you miss from Ukraine?
You know, I was born in Vancouver, and I was
Oh,
born in 1953. So ultimately, I have a typical multicultural Canadian background, and I pretty much enjoy all the different cultural celebrations. Um, I love different foods. I love different spices. I love the different activities, different methods of worship. I think they're really cool, and I think that they really enrich the fabric of Canadian life. And the reason for that is that
yeah.
there just has to be a diversity. I think there's a real strength in diversity, and I think Canada's role on the world shows that strength of diversity.
Correct. Yeah. But it's multicultural. Cultural. We have a lot of culture here, and this is correct. Like I think it's because we have a lot of people coming of all the world, like all part of the world. Like this is what makes Canada a better place to live in. Um,
Absolutely.
so as you know, we met in Canadian sharing. So
Sure.
can you tell us a little bit more about this organization? What does it do? Like, what's the objective and the mission of it?
Absolutely, Bruno. Canadian Sharing Locally and Globally is a Canadian charity. We do work in India and we do disaster relief around the world. In India, we work in supporting healthcare, education, nutrition, the environment, and some disaster relief. And around the world, we usually get involved in disaster relief. Currently, we're focused on Ukraine and Pakistan. We got involved, my wife and I were invited to South India by some friends. We went to South India to a really what appeared to be a very impoverished rural community. And we saw that they were doing really valuable social works there. They were providing the first schools, providing the first bit of healthcare, and lots of works that were really making the average person's life a little bit richer, a little bit better. And we were really impressed. We had a little bit of a charitable background through work that my uncle was doing in South America. But we didn't have a sense for how meaningful that charitable work could be. So we were inspired by this group of people, which ultimately became their 4 registered charities in India. And at a point, they asked us if we could help in Canada to support their good works. And we were naturally overjoyed to be able to help. And that's how myself and a number of other volunteers spend our time contributing to the social fabric really in India.
So like in a way, you created this organization, correct?
We created the
Yeah.
organization because there was no other templates. Like there's nobody else was doing it, and we were asked specifically to do that. So we had to kind of figure out how to go through the registration process and all those sorts of things. Fortunately, we knew enough about charity matters to be able to navigate the fairly uh, strenuous rules that the Canadian Revenue Agency has for registering charities. But we were able to register, to my surprise, and we've been quite successful thereafter, helping really literally thousands of people better their lives.
Yeah, I remember I saw like I saw the videos, like you showed me some videos and picture, and I was working on some projects. Yeah, you really did. And it's like you, as you said, it's really good when it's a good feeling
Absolutely.
when you help other people as well. So I think this is what motivates you and like to continue and pursuing this.
Absolutely.
So like, can you tell us a little bit, like for example, a story if you sometime if you went to India or encountered something, or if you like helped someone physically there, like do you go to India and was in Canada? Okay, so can you tell
Yeah,
us
of
like a
course.
little a story about that?
Normally, I go to India about once a year, not so much through COVID, but that's very general. I think the most touching story I had was we work with a very large hospital in India now. When we went there, there was no hospital.
Oh,
There was no healthcare at all, practically, in when we first went in 2000. But by 15 years later, there's a fairly large hospital that's been constructed by this group. Um, they contacted me and they said that a young man, his name was Mr. Ganesh, had lost his arm in an industrial accident. And what it was is that there was a spinning mill in a home setting, a spinning mill to provide making textiles of some sort. And his arm had got caught in the machine and it had amputated it just above the elbow. So we were asked to provide a prosthetic for it. Um, and the interesting thing was the hospital wasn't really providing that sort of service, but they wanted us to help them to learn how to provide that service.
mhm.
So anyhow, we went through, we raised some money for that, and we were successful raising quite a bit of interest and some money for it. And the hospital built this beautiful um, appliance that basically simulated, an arm and a hand and fingers, and it worked quite well actually. And then we know it worked quite well because a half year later we saw pictures of Mr. Ganesh riding his motorcycle. So I was just happy. And so it gives us a really a good feeling that we're able to help at least one person,
Yeah,
which, I mean, from my perspective, for all of us to help at least one person is our duty. And if we can help even more, that's even better. And, it just seems to be part of, um, to me, being human.
yeah. Well, it's yeah, as you said, if everyone if every one of us can have the opportunity to help one another person, like I think the world would be in a better place now. Which
Absolutely,
is
because it multiplies too,
yeah,
because
good.
generally, if you help somebody, they remember that they might be inspired to help somebody else who might be inspired to help somebody else, and it really builds a nice fabric of generosity and supporting one another, which I think we could all use at times.
So John, do you think um first of all, like if someone wants to donate to Canadian Sharing, like where he must go, and if he wants to be a volunteer as well, like what are
Absolutely.
the process of that?
Um, to volunteer is probably just to contact me, and hopefully you'll provide those details, Bruno.
Okay.
To donate. Again, I'll give you the web link, Bruno, and maybe you can provide that because it's a long web address.
Okay, I will
And
put it.
we're just open to all sorts of volunteers, particularly with media, um, technical skills, IT skills are in great demand, and we're all volunteers at Canadian Sharing local and globally. So we um, we really build on the experience of our volunteers, and that's how we do our good works and how we build a more effective organization.
Do you think it's for my opinion, it was very helpful to volunteer as a newcomer. In your opinion, John, do you think newcomers, like people coming to Canada, it is something positive for them if they can at least volunteer for a couple of months or 1 year?
Absolutely. Like I think that uh, it's really important to work for the betterment of your own community, whatever that might be. But I think it's also really good to reach out into other communities, like you did, Bruno. Like
Yeah.
you reached into a Canadian Sharing, which is a different, I'm presuming, a different cultural background than yours. And it just gives a more grounded experience of what's happening in Canada and how um, the culture of Canadians, that's a broad spectrum because we all have different cultures, of course, but the mainstream culture, I think it's really important to understand that and to be able to thrive in it.
Yeah, for me, as I said, it's very important. I remember when we met several times, and then I we were discussing, and I told you like I'm interested in graphic design, and I want to open my
Sure.
company and all that. And then
Yeah.
you introduced me to some of your connection, if you remember. So this is very
Yes.
important for all
Hmm.
newcomers to join and
Absolutely.
to volunteer because in my opinion, you will be building your network like in a way or another, or you might be a person who can help. So in
Mhm.
all cases, I think people can benefit from this.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely. There's a number of different benefits, and it's just a matter of trying to see what works and how you can
yeah.
establish a new social network, both within your community and outside of whatever your native community might be.
So those are all the questions I had for you today. I have for you today. So if you want, do you want to add anything else before we end this interview?
I think that um, Canada is really enriched by immigration, people coming from different parts of the world, because people bring different skills and there's that a cultural mix too that makes us all stronger. So I think it's really important uh, to will thrive in Canada and for people to come to Canada. I'm glad I heard that the immigration allowances had been relaxed by the Canadian government. I think that's really important. I hope that more and more people will come to Canada and to continue to build the social fabric here. And there's a lot of land and there's a lot of resources. I think it's really a great opportunity. And we also have the religious and cultural background that's tolerant generally. So there's less bias to people from different backgrounds. So I think Canada is a great place, and
Yeah, it
uh,
is. I
I'm
agree.
just happy that people are coming to help build Canada.
Totally agree. Okay, thank you, John, for your
Uh,
for accepting the my invitation to do an interview. And I wish I will put all the information of Canadian sharing in this video, and I hope like people will start viewing and maybe contact, and I hope they can as well donate for Canadian sharing. Thank
for
you so
sure.
much once again, and yeah, and see you soon. Ciao.
Yeah, thank you, Bruno, for thinking of me and for inviting me to this. I think it's really important to just to speak to people, and I really appreciate this opportunity.
You're welcome. Thank you as well, John.
Thank you,
Okay,
Bruno.
have a great one.
Bye for now. You too.